A tree full of stars and a sky full of fire. The ship left Andaman Port, Port Blair, and steamed into the great blue unknown. That was my first impression of the journey to one of the most isolated island chains in the world, India's Nicobar Islands, a sea of blue. Not just the sea, the world around me was monochrome. It was difficult to tell where the ocean ended and the sky began. The ship was often the only thing breaking up the smooth blue view. Without internet or music to give me company, my only companions were occasional marine creatures that I glimpsed from the rail. One day, to my great surprise, a shoal of fish leapt through the air. It was my first time ever seeing flying fish, and I later learned that they leap powerfully from the water and use their fins to glide through the air. Other creatures like octopi and dolphins were welcome visitors too. I spent long hours standing at the rail, gazing at the waters and waiting for other signs of life in the deep and calm waters. "Everyone stay in your places," the captain shouted. "We are crossing the 10-degree channel." This channel was known for its extremely rough waters, and anyone who moved around during the crossing would find themselves flat on their backs. Honestly, life on a ship always felt like a rough crossing. Even the water in glasses never stayed still. Days on a ship are not very different from each other, but the stops on the way from Port Blair to the Nicobar Islands made the experience exciting. We were not allowed to get off the ship onto the different small islands we halted at, but I stood at the railing and watched the local islanders hurry to and from the port, unloading supplies and vegetables, farm animals and tourists alike. Many of the islands around India are tiny specks in the water, and some are too small to have fresh water for their residents to drink. On those islands, locals must travel to the nearest island to bring water to use in their homes. At times, the water near the island was too shallow for the ship to dock at the port. That's when I got to see the tough side of the islanders. They would climb down and up a rope hanging down the side of the ship and into small boats that they then rowed to the dock. I saw people of all age groups climbing these ropes without complaint. A fascinating sight was people carrying pigs tied upside down on long sticks. In many parts of the world, pigs are considered a gift by the rich, something I had never heard of before my journey to the islands. At night, the ship usually felt very silent, apart from the occasional Hindi songs that played from the workers' cabin. But when I looked up at the sky on those dark nights on the ship, when the engines were switched off and the waves rocked my fellow passengers to sleep, I counted millions of tiny, fiery stars. I never knew our sky could be so bright, even in the middle of nowhere. I was an amateur in ecology and wildlife when I set foot on the Andaman and Nicobar Islands, but there I was nonetheless, with a task to collect chytrid fungus samples from frogs on India's largest island chain. Chytrid is a deadly fungus that causes death in amphibians like frogs and toads. If you have heard anything about the Andaman and Nicobar Islands, these are an untouched paradise, at least according to tourism hoardings, and they are home to many rare species of amphibians, and my work would help identify the threat to those rare species by the deadly fungus in one of the most remote and unexplored forests in the world. Working on Nicobar was far more exciting than working on the Andamans. For one, only a tiny part of Great Nicobar Island is occupied by people. The remaining island is dense tropical rainforest. Tree shrews, Nicobar long-tailed macaques, and countless snakes and frogs call these forests home, and they were hardly shy and never missed an opportunity to flaunt their beauty. There are no large predators on the island, making my research, which took place at night, much safer than I had originally expected. Great Nicobar is home to two tribes. The Nicobarese is the dominant tribe, and they do all sorts of work like running local businesses. And the Shompen, who reside in the remote dense jungle, are the other tribe, who only come out occasionally. I saw them a few times while heading to the jungle. One incredible night in the Great Nicobar Biosphere Reserve is still cherished in my memory even today. I had taken an old bike along the cliff road which entered the deep jungle, a torch in my left hand and my right steering the vehicle. It had been drizzling all evening, and finally the rain had stopped. The forest was pitch dark, as the canopy was so thick that even the moon and stars did not shine through the ground. The only sounds that filled the forest were the croaking of frogs, the rustling of leaves, the calls of small animals going about their nightly business, and the lapping of waves against the cliffside. That was when I saw it. At first, I did not know what I was seeing. The path rounded a bend, and all of a sudden I found myself staring at a tree on fire. Not fire, but light. I switched off my torch, but the tree remained bright. It glowed eerily in the darkness, and it was only after a few minutes that I realized the light was actually made by thousands of dancing tiny fireflies. They dipped and danced, lighting up the outline of the tree like silent flames. It was a massive tree, towering above the path, and tonight it shone with thousands of delicate, jeweled insects. I switched off the bike engine and climbed off, soaking in the beautiful sight before me. There was nothing that could compare to that glowing tree. Without a camera or a phone, I tried to capture it in my memory. Later, I would take out my notebook and desperately sketch what I saw, trying to recreate the tree of fire in the inky forest with only a charcoal pencil on white paper. Even today, when I remember those days on India's unexplored islands, I wonder if the tree of fire still lives today, or if it were an anomaly. And sometimes, I can't quite remember if I saw a tree full of fireflies, or was it a tree full of stars.